Morning. Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters. There's a bug in my eye. We are in Genesis 10. This morning, I told y'all last week, I am not Mr. Genealogy guy. I don't get super stoked for all the begats. So, in 10, basically all the way through 10, we're going to have the genealogy of the sons of Noah. And that's necessary to establish lines of descendancy and timeline going forward in this book. So we're just going to jump right in and basically plow 10 so we can move on with it. And this is the genealogy of the sons of Noah: Shem, Ham, and Japheth, or Japheth, or Yap, as we've called him. And sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Yap: Gomer and Magog, and Madai, and Yawan, or Yavan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. And the sons of Gomer, so this would be the grandsons of Yap: Ashkenaz. Some of y'all may have heard of the Ashkenazi Jews, or Ashkenazi Jews. So Ashkenaz, and Ripoth, and Togarmah. And the sons of Yawan: Elisha, and Tarshish, and Kittim, and Dodanim. From these, the coastland peoples of the nations were separated into their lands, everyone according to his language, according to their clans, into their nations. I may be standing in a fire ant mound. Don't know yet, but I'll know shortly. This could get interesting. All right. They were separated into their lands, everyone according to his language, according to their claims, into their nations. And the sons of Ham: Cush, and Mitzrayim, and Put, and Canaan, or Canaan. Sound familiar? The sons of Cush: Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Ramah, and Sabteka. And the sons of Ramah: Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush brought forth Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before Yahweh. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, the mighty hunter before Yahweh. He was really good at driving cars. Therefore it was said he was really good at driving cars. That gets foot stomped for us for reasons. And the beginning of his reign was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh, and in the land of Shinar. From that land he went to Ashur, and built Nineveh, and Rehoboth, and Calah, and Rezin between Nineveh and Calah. Shut up or you'll be dinner. And Rezin between Nineveh and Calah, the great city. And Mitzrayim brought forth Ludim, and Ananim, and Lahabim, and Naphutim, and Pathrusim, and Casluhim, from whom came the Philistines and the Caphtorim. And Canaan brought forth Sidon, and his firstborn Heth, and Jebusite, and the Amorite, and the Girgashite. Dang old Girgashites. And the Hivites, and the Archite, and the Sinite, and the Arwadite, and the Semirite, and the Hamathite. And afterward the clans of the Canaanites were spread abroad. And the border of the Canaanites was from Sidon, as one would go, as we often do, towards Gerar, as far as Azah. As you go towards Sedom, and Amorah, and Admah, and Saboyim, as far as Lasha. Remember this. This will all be on the test. Body bag. These were the sons of Ham, according to their clans, according to their languages, and their lands and their nations. And also Shem, the father of all the children of Eber, Eber, the brother of Yap, the elder. I guess that's why I was pretty sure Yap was the elder last time. I guess. I don't know. Children were born. I gotta throw something at this thing. Hold on. Run. I hope that looks like a girl throw on camera. You see these guys? Look, they don't care. They don't care. They're like, oh, you trying to preach the word to YouTube? Don't care. Don't care. We're just mini velociraptors. And they're... Oh. We know it's daylight. Thank you. Go away. Okay. The sons of Shem. Ilam and Ashur and Arpachshad and Lud and Aram. Lud. Y'all ever read that Stephen King series, The Gunslinger? The city of Lud. The sons of Aram, Utz and Hul and Gether and Mash. And Arpachshad brought forth Salah, and Salah brought forth Eber. And to Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his day the earth was divided. And his brother's name was Yoktan. And Yoktan brought forth Elmodad, and Shelef, and Hatzawarmapheth, and Yerah, and Hadaram, and Uzal, and Dikla, and Obal, and Abanael, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Havilah, and Yobab. And these were the sons of Yoktan, and their dwelling place was from Mesha as you go south towards, as you go toward Sephar, a mountain in the east. These were the sons of Shem, according to their clans, according to their languages, in their lands, according to their nations. These were the clans of the sons of Noah, according to their generations, in their nations, and from these nations were divided on the earth after the flood. All that so we can get to the end there. But I have said, doing this series, that we're just going to read this word. And that's what we're going to do. We're not going to skip stuff. We're not going to jump around. We're just going to read this word. So I hope that was as boring for you as it was for me. If not, maybe you need to buy stock in Ancestry.com or something. That stuff right there just... So, all right, 11. And all the earth had one language and one speech. And it came to be as they set out from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said to each other, come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. So clay and asphalt, okay? And they said, come, let us build ourselves a city. We'll build this city on rock and roll. And it does not say that. And a tower whose top is in the heavens. And make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered all over the face of the earth. And then Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And Yahweh said, look, they are one people, and they all have one language, and this is what they begin to do. And now they are not going to be withheld from doing whatever they plan to do. Come, let us, capital U, us, aliens, man. Remember, we talked about the plurality, the echad, right? Deuteronomy 6:4. What's that? Wrong hat, but normally it would say Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, underneath here. And that means, hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our God, Yahweh is one, Echad. And that one we've talked about over and over and over again, and we will continue to do so until we are blue in the face and or in the presence of the Most High. That one is the Father, Yahweh, the Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, and the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. There's no such thing as the Holy Trinity. Okay, whatever. Bye. Have a nice life. So, the us is not that there was a mothership filled with dozens of gray aliens who came here from Mars to speciate this planet. It's the multiple facets of the Father. Okay. As understood by the Hebrews, right? We're using their words to explain all of this because our God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Those people were Hebrews, as we've talked about before. So was Yeshua. He was a Hebrew, right? He kept the commandments of the Father, to which I would say I've gotten an email lately about how I just talk too much about Torah and I need to be careful. You know where the door is. I love you, brother, I really do, but if you think I'm going to be silenced by an email, that I'm not going to speak my convictions because of an email, you don't know me at all. The last thing I'm going to do is be quiet, especially about something I'm convicted on. So while I'm glad to have everybody here along for the ride, and I am blessed with the 4,664 people that the Father has brought to us thus far, I will shut this thing down and die destitute in that ditch back there with not a thing to my name before I stop talking about Torah. Now, whether or not you keep Torah, that's on you. And I don't love you any less if you don't. But I can't be any less convicted about the fact that I am called to do this than I am. If those things are oil and water for you, if this is incompatible, I wish that I could be sorry, but I'm not. So, to anybody else that has these issues, I say this in love. The door's over there. Peace. Now, what the heck were we talking about? Us. 11:7. Come, let us go there and confuse their language so they do not understand one another's speech. And Yahweh scattered them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. That is why its name was called Babel, because Yahweh confused the language of all the earth, and from there Yahweh scattered them all over the face of the earth. There's, probably easily enough commentary to fill the back of my pickup truck on just those few passages right there. About the suppositions as to why Yahweh, the Father, would not allow them to build this tower. I'm going to hang my hat on. We don't necessarily need any more information than we have right here. There's a lot of ways you can go with this. We can get Francis Chan about this. We can get Monte Judah about this. We can get Rob Skiba about this. There's directions we can go. Frankly, I don't care. The Father didn't want them to do this, and so they didn't. And that's kind of the takeaway here for me, being as just freaking practical and pragmatic as I am, as, access denied. Okay. You don't get to build this tower. And you could say you don't get to approach heaven through the physical, right? It's not by physical works that you can approach the heavens. And that's the general takeaway with the Tower of Babel story, is that it was an affront to the Lord, to Yahweh, the Father, that us piddly human beings would attempt to get closer to him through the physical, right? And then you could also say, well, Habakkuk, woe to those that breathe life into stone. Okay. I'm not particularly metaphysical on this part of the book. The father said, no, we're not doing that. They tried, and he confused their language and scattered them. So, conversely, in the end of the book, when people start coming back together again in end times, there's a one world government with one language, and people can travel together whenever they want. So, compare contrast there. This 11:10, our favorite part. Here we go. This is the genealogy of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and brought forth Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. And after he brought forth Arpachshad, Shem lived 500 years and brought forth sons and daughters. Arpachshad lived 35 years and brought forth Shelah. And after he brought forth Shelah, Arpachshad lived 403 years and brought forth sons and daughters. Shelah lived 30 years and brought forth Eber. And after he brought forth Eber, Shelah lived 403 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years and brought forth Peleg. And after he brought forth Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and brought forth sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years and brought forth Reu. And after he brought forth Reu, Peleg lived 209 years and brought forth sons and daughters. Reu lived 32 years and brought forth Sarug. After he brought forth Sarug, Reu lived 207 years, sons and daughters. Sarug 30 years. Nahor, Sarug lived 200 years. What we're seeing here is the shrinking of the lifespan of the human being, generation after generation. Nahor lived 29 years and brought forth Terah. After he brought forth Terah, Nahor lived 119 years, brought forth sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and brought forth Abraham, Nahor, and Haran. And remember, okay, strange bug. We're told that all of our days will number 120 years, right? There's no more Methuselah, 969 years. That's gone. And of course, there's people right now trying to figure out what parts of our DNA can we splice out using CRISPR, which is basically like a half pissed off, what do you call that thing? I can see it. It's one of those wiggly things in the petri dish. It's a bacteria. It's a half pissed off bacteria that learned somehow, we don't know how, to shield itself from viruses that wanted to eat it by snipping out part of their DNA and replacing its own DNA with the virus's DNA, so that the virus's IFF, identification friend or foe, didn't work on this bacteria, that it was basically wearing a mask as bacteria or as a virus, so that the virus didn't kill the bacteria. So now we're playing with this stuff in labs. I say collective we, human beings, playing with this stuff in labs, trying to figure out how to snip certain parts of our DNA that we know cause us to age and fall apart and die. Which, end times, anybody? I don't know. That just speaks right to me, right? So we get all this stuff. Okay, Terah brought forth Abram. Why is all this genealogy important? Why do we have 2 chapters of basically nonsense, of in my opinion, nonsense, 10 and 11 genealogies, so that we can get to Abram, okay? So, where'd we go? 26, Terah lived 70 years, brought forth Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And this is the genealogy of Terah. Terah brought forth Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran brought forth Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his birth, in Ur-Kasdim. And Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, or Sarah. And the name of Nahor's wife, Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Yiscah. And Sarai was barren and had no children. And Terah took his son Abram, and his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, and his son Abram's wife, and they went out with them from Ur-Kasdim, to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah came to be 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Okay, good. Now I feel like, I don't know, this is just me and my bias. I feel like we can get, I don't want to say back to the stuff that counts, but back to the stuff that I think is like a little bit more intriguing and relevant. It's hard for me to pick out nuggets for us with the Begats, right? But that's a consequence of go team, as we talked about last week. Go team. Get out there and bump nasties. Yeah, the Father, He loves us. He made sex fun. All right. And Yahweh said to Abram, go yourself out of your land, from your relatives and from your father's house, to a land which I show you, and I shall make a great nation, and bless you, and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I shall bless those who bless you, and curse him who curses you. And in you all the clans of the earth shall be blessed. Now we can start switching our ears on. So Abraham, or not Abraham yet, Abram left as Yahweh had commanded him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the beings whom they had acquired in Haran. And they set out for the land of Canaan, and they came to the land of Canaan. It's an interesting phraseology there. And the beings whom they had acquired in Haran. Because, like, instantly the mind thinks, like, slavery. And then the next thing the mind thinks is, how can you acquire a person? Right? Like, that's messed up. You don't acquire people, they're not property. And so I'm going to take that thought and set it aside over here, unequivocally stating that people aren't property, and I'm not cool with that. Things like this have happened in the past. Okay. But then it also makes me think of, like, literally tribe. We've all acquired each other to one extent or another. I know where some of y'all live. Some of y'all know where I live. We spend time together. We give each other energy. We've all acquired each other to one extent or another. And that's something to think about, just that phraseology right there, especially in an end times preparedness mindset of acquiring people. Because the connotation here is that Abram was responsible for these people. That's something to think about. It just gives me pause when I hear that phraseology, enough pause to want to share with y'all. And Abram passed through the land, the place of Shechem, as far as the terebinth tree of Moreh. And at that time the Canaanites were in the land, and Yahweh appeared to Abram and said, to your seed I give this land. And he built there a slaughter place to Yahweh who had appeared to him. And from there he moved to the mountain east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east, and he built there a slaughter place to Yahweh and called on the name of Yahweh. And Abram set out, continuing toward the south. And a scarcity of food came to be in the land, and Abram went down to Mitzrayim to dwell there, for the scarcity of food was severe in the land. And it came to be, when he was close to entering Mitzrayim, that he said to Sarai his wife, see, I know that you are a beautiful woman to look at, and it shall be, when the Mitzrites see you, that they shall say, this is his wife, and they shall kill me, but let you live, because they want to bow chicka wow wow with his wife. Not cool, man. Not cool. Lost my place. 12:13. Please say you are my sister, so that it shall be well with me for your sake, and my life be spared because of you. And it came to be, when Abram came into Mitzrayim, that the Mitzrites, the Egyptians, okay, Mitzrayim is Egypt, okay, saw that the woman, and she was very beautiful, and Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken to Pharaoh's house. And he treated Abram well, for her sake, and he had sheep and cattle and male donkeys and male and female servants and female donkeys and camels. And Yahweh plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this you have done to me? Why did you not inform me that she was your wife?" "Because I didn't want to die, bro." "Why did you say she is my sister? And so I was going to take her for my wife. Look, here is your wife, take her and go." And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away with his wife and all that he had. And Abram went up from Mitzrayim into the south, and he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him. And Abram was very rich in livestock, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journey from the south as far as Bethel, to a place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the slaughter place which he had made there at first. And there Abram called on the name of Yahweh. Now Lot, who went with Abram, also had flocks and herds and tents, and the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their possessions were great, so that they could not dwell together. They ran out of space. They didn't have enough space. So, which is something to consider. Kind of in a preparedness mindset this morning. It's something to consider because the carrying capacity of the land that you're on. I just got an email from a guy the other day. It was like, "Hey man, love the videos, keep up the good work. How do I keep 20 people at my place?" So we've been talking back and forth about that, but how do you keep 20 people at your place? Do you have room for them? Do you have food for them? Do you have water for them? Do you have sanitation for them? Do you have room for all the animals in the gardens that it takes to feed 20 people over the long term? Intensively farmed, a quarter acre per person will feed you year round, plus some aminals. Intensively farmed. Something else to consider too, because if you have to eat off of what you produce and only what you produce, you now have a full-time job, which is why you need a tribe like Abram and Lot that's so big that y'all can't live next to each other because you have so many people, because it takes that many people to get all the work done. Carrying capacity of land and carrying capacity of your tribe. Moving on. They could not dwell together. 13:7. And there was strife between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. And at the time the Canaanites and the Perizzites dwell in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, "Let there be no strife between you and me." Look, man, let's chill. We're family. "Between my herdsmen and your herdsmen, for we are brothers. Is not all the land before you? Please separate from me. If you take the left, then I go to the right. If you go right, then I take the left." He's basically like, "Look, man, there's plenty of land here, and this is a good lesson for us here. There's enough room. You go this way, I'll go that way. You want to go that way, I'll go this way. Doesn't matter. We're brothers. You know, tell your people to chill. I'll tell my people to chill." Somebody needs to tell that freaking rooster to chill. All right. And Lot lifted his eyes and saw all the plain of Yarden, that it was well watered everywhere, before Yahweh destroyed Sodom and Amorah, like the garden of Yahweh, like the land of Mitzrayim, as you go towards Soar. So Lot chose for himself all the plain of the Yarden, and Lot moved east. Thus they separated from each other. Abram dwelling in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelling in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tents as far as Sedom. Sedom, S-E-D-O-M. Also known as Sodom, like Sodom and Gomorrah, where, yeah, we'll get to Lot and Lot's wife. So, right? Father always preserves a remnant. Yeah. All right. Where do we go? Thank you, Wynn, for turning my page in the inappropriate direction. Okay. But the men of Sodom, were evil and sinned before Yahweh, exceedingly so. And after Lot had separated from him, Yahweh said to Abram, "Now lift up your eyes and look from the place where you are, northward and southward and eastward and westward. For all the land which you see I shall give to you and your seed forever. And I shall make your seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man could count the dust of the earth, then your seed also could be counted. Arise, walk on the land through its length and its width, for I give it to you. So Abram moved his tent and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of the Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built a slaughter place there to Yahweh. I think we're going to hold up right there for right now, mostly because I'm pretty sure I got like 300 bites on my legs, and this chicken over here needs to die. So, I think we're going to hold up there for this week. I mean, takeaways, number one, the begats are important. The genealogy is important. It gets us from Noah to Abram. Why is that important? We have a series of covenants in the Old Testament, covenants that people like me believe are still in effect. The Father does not cancel his covenants. He tells us over and over, these are for all your generations. Do these things for all your generations. We still have generations, which means these covenants are still in effect. So part of understanding where those covenants come from is understanding the genealogy and the timeline of these covenants. So we have the Adamic covenant, the agreement that the Father makes with Adam. Then we have the Noahic covenant, the agreement that Noah makes, or the Father makes with Noah to preserve him as a remnant due to his righteousness, and the beasts of the earth and so forth and so on. And we can still observe this today. It's up in the sky anytime you see a rainbow. Strangely enough, coming back from Shofar Mountain a couple weekends ago, there was a rainbow in the sky. We had a phenomenal weekend. As we're driving back, there's a big old rainbow in the sky, a reminder of the Father's covenant with Noah. And now we're getting into the Abrahamic covenant. Right now, he's still Abram because Yah hasn't given him his extra syllable to mark him as righteous, which is coming. But it establishes a direct line from the first man to the Son of Man, right? So how do we get the Son of Man as a descriptor for the Most High made flesh here on earth? You know, Yeshua, right? The Son of Man. Because if you think about that, it really doesn't, on its surface, make a lot of sense. The Son of Man. It's almost derogatory. Yeah, but you could think of it as the son of the first man, all the way down unbroken line, right? Which, I guess technically, aren't we all? Would we not be here without the first man and the first woman? So, but the more men and women you have, the more they go team, the more those, y'all have ever seen in West Virginia, shut up, West Virginia family tree, it's a telephone pole. But no, I mean, the more that family tree branches, the more important it would be to the Hebrews, the Jews later, but the Hebrews now, to follow that genealogy, to understand where people came from and what their inheritance was, this land, that land. And then we'll see under the Mosaic covenant with Moshe, with Moses, not just what land they have, because now they've all been displaced, but what their responsibilities are. For example, like the Levites. So while I do find this stuff kind of boring, it is important because it lays the foundation for where we're going to go. So we talked about that. We talked about covenants. We talked about, let's see, Abram and Lot. Abram calls on the Father, calls on Yahweh, and he is gifted land. That relates with me. And we can see here too, Lot wasn't a terribly bad guy, but he ended up in a bad place, and because of that, things go bad for him. So there's a lesson in there as well. It's not simply, and I mean, like these guys are like they're practically on a first name basis with the Most High. You know what I mean? They're out here getting it done at a time when Yahweh was indwelt in the land. So, and Lot still, one could say, goes the wrong direction, but he ends up in a bad place, right? They're over there by Sodom and Gomorrah. And yeah, he's preserved as a remnant, his wife not so much, but things don't go well for him because he ends up in a bad place. So, there's a lesson there as well. And let's see. I think it's interesting how Abram comes into his wealth as in large part because Pharaoh blesses him with it as an excuse to get him out of Mitzrayim, because Pharaoh didn't want to make the mistake of taking Sarai as his wife. So that's kind of an underhanded provision from the father, you know what I mean? Like, hey, man, I know you're trying to build this company, so, you know, or whatever. I know you're working on this thing, so let me put you in a really uncomfortable situation, and if you just hang on and trust me, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. It's weird. Like, it's hard to almost quantify that blessing. It's like, you lied about your wife. You went into a fairly dangerous situation. Pharaoh almost teamed with her. Pharaoh finds out and goes, here's some hush money, get out of here. So you do, and you leave, and it's like, oh, man, we're doing great. We got all this cattle, all this livestock, all these people. We got so many tents that we're not all going to fit on this one piece of land. You go that way, I'll go this way. So maybe the lesson there is, hey, man, as long as we're in line with the Father's will for our life, even when it gets weird and squirrely, it'll be okay. Oh, look, here come more chickens. That's going to do it for this week, guys. So, shalom and blessings. I love you guys. I hope that this helps. And let me know what you got out of this reading down in the comments. So, peace.